Have you ever had a spine-chilling feeling about someone that you couldn't quite justify, but then it turned out to be right? What happened? When I was a kid around 6 or 7 years old, I lived next door to this other kid probably about a year older than me. He had this speech disorder called palilalia, where he would repeat everything he said under his breath a bunch of times every time he talked. He also always said he needed to puke, but never did. I told my mom and sisters that he creeped me out, and they told me I was being mean, and that he was just different, which was the right thing for them to say. Looking back, I realize he probably just had a bad anxiety disorder. Anyway, after hanging out with him quite a bit for a couple years, we moved to a new house about 10 minutes away. About a year later, his mom called mine asking if she could babysit. He showed up and was almost completely mute. We ate dinner and then he said he needed to puke. I told my mom that he always said that and was probably fine because he wasn't very responsive. Then he puked everywhere. A lot. Again. I'm like 8 or 9 at this point and all I remember is just being all around creeped and grossed out. We sent him home and I begged my mom to not have him over again because he creeped me out, and she said fine. Cut to almost 15 years later, I find a news article with his mugshot on the front. Something to the effect of local man kills father. Dude beat his dad to death with a baseball bat because his dad wanted him to get a job and move out. There's this guy that came into my theater from time to time and he's just off. He does music at a local spot sometimes too. I couldn't ever put my finger on why I didn't want him around until about a year ago when he messaged one of my employees randomly, a then 19-year-old female, with a picture he had found on her Facebook and edited. She was in a simple dress and he made the photo black and white and the dress red. He put flowers around it like a frame. This was all unsolicited. This employee is like my little sister and I really wanted to ban him afterward. Then he came in and asked another female employee if he could photograph her nude at his home. He's banned now. Not a Christian, but was raised in a very Christian household, so I'll still go to church occasionally to appease my parents. There was this new guy working at the church. Everyone who mentioned him talked about how nice he was and how he was the perfect guy and how much help he was. I met him. He was nice for sure, but he felt too nice in an almost creepy way. Like something about his smile just seemed off to me. After we got home, I made a joke that he's probably like the guys in shows who seem perfectly normal but end up being serial killers or something. My family got offended on his behalf and started defending him. 3 months down the road he tried to rape one of the female volunteers but was caught. Turns out that, even though he had never raped anyone before, he had been blackmailing different girls for years for nudes and sexual videos. I was a waitress a while ago and there was this really creepy guy who worked in the kitchen. He tried to be nice, but I always steered clear, feeling there was something totally scummy about him. Like 2 weeks later he got arrested for murdering 2 people, chopping up their bodies, and putting them in like a plastic tote in his car. Trust your gut, people. I had an off feeling about my godfather. For years, I was just uncomfortable around him. He was a masseuse and would give free massages to everyone, including my sister who was about 13 at the time. I always refused. I didn't want him to touch me. Found out many years later, after having forgotten about him, that he died in prison after he'd been raping a teenage girl that was close to my sister's age. My freshman year in high school, they had just added computer science as a set of classes you could take, and of course, me being myself, I jumped on that quickly. They had to hire someone who could actually teach it, of course, and his name was Mr. Allman. Allman was a strange dude. He definitely had the "I've spent 99% of my life on my computer and don't know how to function as a human being" personality. He was very awkward, slouched, Always sat in the corner with his computer and just didn't know how to speak a lot of the time. His teaching was pretty mediocre, and he was really bad at controlling the class. Anyways, my freshman year in computer science didn't have anything eventful. It was my sophomore year in app computer science principles where things kicked off. There was only 7 of us in the class, since a lot of people who took the first year were seniors, so it didn't get too wild. Besides this kid named Michael, but that's for another time. I wanna reiterate right now about how he sat in the corner with his computer, back towards the wall, so we couldn't see anything. He was always back there watching something. He would always joke how he was watching Watch Mojo, and he would show us on the projector that it was in fact what he was doing, but we loved to make jokes that he was secretly watching porn because we're high schoolers. Well, one day, while he was showing us some code on the projector, when this little pop-up shows in the corner in Chinese text. It didn't have pictures, but there were some English words and we could definitely tell it was from a campsite. We all start dying laughing, and he's literally sitting there yelling, "Guys, it's not that funny." But it gets even better. A couple of seconds later, a pair of tits pops up on the screen. We start having fucking aneurysms. He's red at the face, furiously trying to close all of the stuff, and for the last 10 minutes of class it's just us making fun of him. We all ended up talking about it and decided not to report him because it was just too damn funny. The rest of the school year we were always very wary of what he was doing in the corner though. While it was hilarious, you can't help but just feel uneasy when some 40-year-old man is sitting in the corner watching porn near a bunch of teenagers. Anyways, nothing else happened for a while. That is until this school year, my junior year. It's the end of September. One Monday, Mr. Allman doesn't show up, and we have a sub. This rarely happens without us knowing, but no biggie, we just go with it. But then comes Tuesday, then Wednesday, then finally Thursday, and no Allman. We start asking the sub what happened, and we find out it had happened again, this time in another class. In a class of 30 freshmen, on a big new fancy 4K projector, hardcore porn pops up. Mayhem ensues. All of these pubescent boys are laughing so hard they are choking and screaming, while Allman keeps saying that wasn't supposed to happen. After that class, Allman goes straight to the principal and resigns right then and there with no reason. But then one of the freshmen ends up reporting what happened. Okay, Marsov won us. Where's the part where it gets worse? Well, obviously after he resigned they were gonna take his school laptop and stuff, especially after hearing what had happened. Well, they do find porn, but definitely not the kind of porn they expected. They go through his laptop and they find lots of Japanese and Chinese porn sites. The reason that's significant is because the age of consent is way lower in those places, and his search terms included a lot of teen stuff. But what they found on his SD card was much worse. Allman's wife is Vietnamese, and so are his 2 children. I know this because I sat for him before, since we were a little close. He also had a niece that he loved to talk about. Well, on this SD card they found a video showing the extent of his love, because it was video of her naked changing in the bathroom. She was under 10 years old, and he had multiple videos of her on this flash drive. We found out after Thanksgiving break that he was instantly put under arrest, but now he's posted bond and he's living with his parents. I bought his personal info on white pages because it just frightens me that this pedo was my teacher for 3 years and I wanted to keep up with it all. Here's an article to the full story. Some of it's wrong, some of it's right. TL. Doctor, we joke teacher is a pedo. After he shows porn in class, find out that he actually is one. My younger brother is disabled. He has epilepsy. He has a rare condition called schizencephaly, meaning he was born without a portion of his brain, and cerebral palsy. He takes Ativan, Vimpet, and gabapentin every day, twice a day to keep him from having life-threatening seizures. When he is at school, he has an RN that follows him around so that if he has a seizure he can immediately get treatment. About 4 years ago he got a new nurse at the start of the school year. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I just had a bad feeling about her. For some reason I don't think she liked me either. She never once officially introduced herself to me, and she seemed cold because it seemed like she never wanted to talk to me. Meanwhile, she loved to talk to my older brother. My mom found that she was stealing my brother's meds because she left her purse at our house, and before she left she was noticeably high. When she found out about us finding out, she skipped town. The damn school district didn't keep an actual record of her employment. We never found out her last name because they didn't know it either, so we couldn't report her to the board of nursing. The beginning of freshman year, grade 9, there was this girl in one of my classes that was a mutual friend of my friend's, so I decided to give her a chance. The first couple of times with her, I thought that she was off and seemed too emotional, but I decided to brush it off. We got so close to the point she wanted me to be a +1 in an international trip with her and her family. Towards the middle of the year, I had another best friend, which she constantly tried to steal from me, and went to the table just for her. The last straw was when she set her backpack at the lunch table. I supposedly took the chair she wanted to sit in. She would often leave the table without coming back for the whole lunch, so I took the chair. She got mad at me and never came back to the table that day. A week after that, she started joking about my best friend being too hot, and that's why she got sexually assaulted. I was defending her, saying it wasn't funny, and she said you were never in the conversation, so shut up. My best friend and a couple other people at the table looked confused after that because I did nothing wrong, but she ended up hating me anyway. Did I mention that she would talk about her friends betraying her every day, but still hang out with them anyway? And this year, she complains about her BF wanting to spend time with her, but she doesn't like him anymore. Yeah, might be a bit crazy. I worked in a large retail chain, and I had a coworker who just gave me a slight off feeling from the start. I'm learning Korean, he's Korean, and he offered to help me with my homework. I said sure, and we exchanged contact info, and he put his name on as redacted oppa. In Korean culture, oppa is the word used to refer to a female's older brother, older male friend, and is also used by girls to call their older boyfriend. I just thought he was using the title to help me learn, although by Korean standards it was way too early for me to refer to him as oppa. He was really touchy with me, kept giving me unwanted hugs, even after I told him no. Found out he's also handsy with other female coworkers. Fast forward a bit, I find out that he is 11 years older than me. He is an absolute man-child, and he asks me to be his girlfriend, not to go out, but straight to BF/GF. I immediately said no. My bad feelings amplified. He refused to take no as an answer, kept professing his love to me, wouldn't leave me alone. After he found out I was dating someone, he complained to my work BFF about it for her whole shift. Kept trying to come up and talk to me. 2 weeks later I found out he was hitting on one of the 16-year-old female cashiers. He is now dating a 21 over 22-year-old girl that also worked with us. Pretty sure he is a pedophile. Also, before you ask, no, I did not report him to ours. Yes, I felt like I was being harassed, but my management is shit and I didn't want to have to go through a whole process. I also just have terrible anxiety and I feared something would happen if I got management involved.